Together, we're making a difference. WMPC.
Welcome to Off the Bookshelf, a program dedicated to exploring topics of interest to you, the listener. Today's guests are Jason and Ann Cowan. They're the authors of the book, The Chore Solution, Making Families Better by Working Together. Jason and Ann, welcome to Off the Bookshelf.
Thanks, Greg.
Thanks. Good morning.
It is good to have you here, and it's very unusual. I think all three of our authors this week were in California. We've had them from England and France, but you're right here in Lapeer County, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Just south of you.
That's great, down there in Metamora. Well, before we talk about your book, tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Okay. Well, Jason and I are married. We have a blended family. We have 4 beautiful boys, ages 15 to 7 months. So we're pretty busy with them. I have a cold, so I'm going to let Jason take over for most of this. But
sure.
Okay.
So, anyway, we met and got married about a little over a year ago, and we've been happy ever since. And then we decided to write this book when we were noticing some discrepancies between the amount of work being done and the amount being given.
Well, it's interesting because we had an author on this week that wrote a couple actually like you that have a blended family, and that's the name of their book is Beyond the Blended Family, Hope and Help for Blended Families. Beyond the Brady Bunch is the title of the book. So it's great that you guys are on today, and it's called The Chore Solution. So basically lay out the problem for us that prompted you to write this book.
Well, the challenges, and that's kind of the way that the book is laid out, is with challenges. We had a lot of stress associated with, we had the oldest who was basically doing the least amount of work around the house, and then the 2 younger ones that were doing more work around the house, and then the oldest was ending up getting everything, and the younger 2, of course, because younger kids don't need much, didn't ask for much. So we wanted to kind of equal things out because we were spending a lot of money on stuff and constantly getting asked for new things. I mean, even as a matter of fact, one month we ended up spending, I think, like $300 on just the 15-year-old.
Oh.
Just for extra stuff, not for stuff that he really needed. It was
right.
Stuff that he needed, but stuff that we were like, oh, some more stuff.
It was about every other day, So, and then there was absolutely, basically nothing getting done around the house.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the core of where we came up with the idea, which is basically we pay based on the chore. We set a dollar amount to each chore, and then if they do it, then they get paid. If they don't, then they don't get paid. And we track everything through work order slips and then on a spreadsheet in Excel.
And the nice thing about them not getting paid for chores not doing is if I do a chore, like if I put the dishes away from the dishwasher, I'll tell the Gab, who's our 6-year-old, hey, Gav, I just took $1 out of your pocket.
Mm.
And then the next day, the dishes are out of the dishwasher without me having to remind anybody.
That's terrific. So you set up this system. I think it's great. How have the boys responded?
Well, that's actually where I was going to go next, so it's good that you asked that question. We started it just to reduce stress and expenditures, and yet what we ended up finding out is that the side benefits that came along with it, like respect for others' things, respect for their own things.
When, like, for example, they would always say, Mom, bring in the groceries, and we would never get any help bringing the groceries.
Mm-hmm.
Now the boys go outside, help us with the groceries, and open the door for us.
Mm.
And it's just the respect between the children, and even the respect for us towards the children has grown too, because now they're actually participating in the family instead of being the other part of the family.
Right. Well, I have a 13-year-old and a soon-to-be 11-year-old. She'll be 11 in a couple of weeks, and she's my challenge because she does not like to do any chores. So I was great to get this book in my hands. I'm not telling any tales out of school, but she just, my son, will help. He cleans his room. He's a people pleaser.
Right.
She doesn't really care what the house looks like. And so it's a big challenge. But one of the things that you, some insight you offer is that you've got to make chores appropriate for the age group.
Definitely.
Tell us about the time you had the 10-year-old mow the lawn.
Yeah, that was a good one.
He was so excited because we have a riding lawnmower. It was so much fun for him to ride on it that one day he wanted to put the blades down and do the lawn because he was that confident. And about a half hour later, we look out the back window, and we had our own English maze garden. It was the best maze I've ever seen in my life because there was no rhyme or reason to it. And he came up and said, "Okay, I'm done." And we're like, "Yep,
Yes.
you're definitely done mowing the grass for right now." And so we had to tell him, maybe next year we'll let you practice riding the lawnmower, but maybe next year you can actually do it for a chore.
And then the best part of it was when he came up and asked Brian, the 15-year-old, to go put the lawnmower in the garage for him, and Brian goes out and says, "Where's the lawnmower?" He had parked it in the middle of the backyard and walked back up to the house, leaving it right there.
Because he was just done.
Yeah. So it's really important to find tasks that they can do. And another thing, too, that you talk about, and I just want to remind our listeners, we're talking to Jason and Ann Cowan. The book is The Chore Solution, Making Families Better by Working Together. Many folks in the previous generation, and I would say like my parents, who both grew up on farms, where you just started doing chores when you were, old enough to do it, and that's just how it was. Have you received any negative feedback about the idea of paying your children for chores?
Well, first, Jason and I have talked about the other generation, our parents, and before, in order to survive, in order to get your dinner, you had to go collect eggs. You had to go milk the cows. There was no, if you wanted to eat that day, you had to participate within the family just to eat, just for the simple necessities of living. Nowadays, with all the new technology and stuff, I think everybody has become a little bit more lackadaisical about working. So the chores and everything, we've had people say, "Oh, I don't pay my children for chores because it's just materialistic." But we also have people who've read the book who said, "You've totally changed my outlook on the way to pay for chores."
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't just give out $50 a month. We write it out, we make them work for it, and if they don't work for it, they just don't get paid that month.
Right.
There's actually a woman that I work with, Susan Saindon, who works at Ford Van Dyke plant, that she told me that at first she was completely against the idea. She's an old school teacher, and she said she was definitely completely against the idea of paying children. And then she read the book, and I spoke with her about it, and she was thrilled with basically what she found out, and what we were trying to write in this book is that the chore solution, paying for the chores, is really just a tool. The benefits that you can teach are the money management, the respect for things, and goal setting.
Mm-hmm.
And on a side note, a lot of kids aren't motivated by money. I've met a few kids that, want toys. Like the younger children, they don't know the difference between a nickel and a $5 bill.
Right.
But they do know the difference between a cool water gun and a Barbie.
Right.
The boys don't want a Barbie, and the girls don't want a cool water gun. So if you can say, okay, we're going to work this month towards your Barbie, or towards your water gun, or towards your video game, or towards your, Andrew has to go to camp this summer. We're going to work $20 towards your camp dues. And that makes them go, oh, then, yeah, I can get this and that, and not have to ask for it.
Right. So
Gavin's actually a perfect example of that, because he didn't really understand the concept of money, but he really does like having more sense than everybody else.
Yeah, as long as he has 75 cents, the other boys have 25 or 50.
Well, I think that's a great idea. Now, one of the things in the early part of your book is you overview the idea of dreaming and dreaming big. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. We started with that. We have our own dream wall, if you will. We have a frame with pictures of things that we want, that we're working towards.
And the things we want aren't materialistic. It's more like, I would love to have Jason stay home with me full time. I would love to have a deck and a playground in the backyard so we can have a family time. It's not about making the money. It's more about spending time together as a family. That's what our goals are.
And so in that vein, what we've done is every time the boys say they want something, we try to go out and find it on the internet and download a picture of it and print it out and put it in a frame for them on their wall so that they constantly have it in front of them.
That's great. I worked with a woman who did that. She was working for a trip to the Bahamas, and she had a picture of a beach. So it works. I think it's great. It's great. Let me ask you this question, because you have a whole chapter on this. What is the proper age to start? Some people might say, well, when they start school or when they start middle school. How does that work in your family dynamic?
I think any age, as long as they do something appropriate for their age. Like Aries, he's only 7 months old, so he can't do anything right now. But
sure.
He's learning to respond to our suggestions. So I'm sure when he starts walking, I'm gonna say, you need to pick up your toy. And I'm gonna start him off doing, you need to pick up your toy. I already tell him when I change his diaper, you have to learn to use the potty.
Yeah.
So I'm starting young.
Yeah.
But like Gab, he's 6 years old, and when we say put the dishes away, he does silverware.
Right.
He doesn't do the heavy pots and pans or plates because he can't. It's too tall. He can't reach the shelf. But he's proud when he does the silverware.
I think it's just something that you kind of have to feel out because different children are different. So, I mean, in one family, maybe a 3-year-old can do things. In another family, maybe a child can't do anything until he's 5 or 6.
And I'm also going to take it back to your daughter, who just doesn't care if the house is clean.
Right.
Find something she cares about. If she cares about her room, then make that one of the chores. Okay, you have to clean your room. Or find if she wants to do the gardening. If she loves to garden, make that one of her chores. It doesn't have to be what you want.
Right.
It should be helpful for the kids, and that way everything can get done.
Yeah.
And in that way, you can start working towards building up work ethic, and then eventually maybe they'll do things that they don't want to do for whatever rewards are set.
Especially when they start getting money in, they realize, hey, if I made $15 more this month, I could have had my new shoes, or I could have had this.
Right.
And then they might step up and go, okay, I'm budgeted. I need $15 more for my budget this month. Can I make dinner tonight?
That's
and the
awesome.
answers are like, yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Now, one of the things you have throughout the book, it's not just your point of view, but it's very interactive as well, and you encourage some writing throughout the book, not just at the end. So tell us a little bit about how you developed that and how you hope that a reader will use that.
We actually were talking to a lady at the bank because every month we take the boys and deposit the money into their bank account, so they physically have to touch the money and physically have to see it go away from them and put it in the bank. And the lady's like, wow, why so many deposits today? And we told her about this chores that we were doing, and that we paid the children every month based on the chores they did, and we kept track of it. And she was like, oh, that would be great for my daughter. She's 6, and every time we go to the store, she says, Mommy, can I? Mommy, can I? And to make it easier, she just goes ahead and gives her, a $10 doll or a $10 gift from the store. And she said it's hard to keep up with that every time.
Right.
And if you say no, like once you start it and you say no, then the child's devastated, and you ruined her whole life for the rest of her life.
Right.
We told her about what we were doing, and so she made it her own. She, instead of doing the lists and everything like we did it, she just put a list on the refrigerator and laminated it, and every time her daughter did something, she'd put a check by it. And then she goes, do you have 10 checks for we're going to go to the grocery store, do you have 10 checks? And if the daughter looked and said, I have 10 checks, then the daughter could buy something. If the daughter didn't have 10 checks, then it was a nice grocery store day because the bank lady, her name's Rachel, we call her bank lady, the bank lady didn't have to get her daughter anything, and the daughter was absolutely fine with it.
Yeah.
So the the reason we have to make it interactive is because every family is different, and we can't say that this is what you need to do for your family, but it'll give you some advice and some suggestions on how to make this your own.
And I do want to point out that while it's less stress for us because we're not being constantly asked for things, it was also what we found was less stress for the children because they don't have. There's a stress associated with having to ask for things.
Yes.
And this is kind of an empowering way that they can go ahead and figure out how to get what they want.
Right. I think that's terrific. Well, they asked the question, and I know that this probably still comes up because it's challenge number 7 in your book. I spent all my money. Can I have $20 for fill in the blank? Right. How does that work, and how do you respond for them?
We come up with creative ways to say no, because it's hard to say no to your child. You know, I mean, they're smarter than we are. All children are smarter than their parents, and we all know that because we were smarter than our parents when we were young. And so we have to have creative ways of saying no, and we also have to be, Jason and I also have to be on the same page. I can't give in, and he can't give in. And, you know, sometimes children might, they might go to one parent and play the parents against each other game. But if you're on the same page, it's going to be, no, you were supposed to earn this money, and I can't do it this month. Or, nope, just simple ways of saying no.
Right.
And it's a very key point to stick with, because if you don't, then basically the whole thing falls apart.
Right. Wow. And now, in the back of the book, as our time is flying by, you have a picture of the chart and also a work order that Jason mentioned earlier, and also a screenshot of the chore worksheet as well. Tell us a little bit about what this looks like on a day-to-day basis in your home as you interact with the boys.
Well, they hate it on the chore chart. We have a whiteboard, and we keep track of everyone's money on the whiteboard. And on the bottom of the board, it says Jason and Ann. So it has Andrew, Brian, the Gav, and then Jason and Ann. And we usually have more money than they do. And that drives them crazy. Because they, it's like, what did you do? I put the dishes away this month, or I made dinner, or I baked a cake, or this is what I did. And so that motivates them to work harder for their goals.
Well, that's great, just laying it out right there. And I think this is a great tool, having the chores listed, when it has to be done, which person's assigned to it, and some of them, it's like loading the dishwasher. There's no one specifically assigned to do that. So do the boys, do they ask to do that, or do you ask them? How does that work?
They just do it, and if they do it, they go and they fill a slip. And I painted a shoe box with black paint just so it looks nicer, and they fill in their chore slip like a work order, and they throw it in the box. We don't ask anything, because if they don't do it, once again, they don't get their stuff that they want at the end of the month.
Yeah, we actually have them asking us what they can do.
That's awesome. That's great. Well, their names are Jason and Ann Cowan, and I have one more quick question for you. What do you expect a family, a mother, a father, to take away from this book?
Well, basically that it's actually quite simple to set up the system, and I think that from my experience of talking to people about this, that the lack with, because a number of people that I've talked to have said that they've tried something similar and they just couldn't make it work, and I really think that the issue was the follow through, the tracking of it, because that's really the difficult part, is to make sure that you know exactly what goes where and who did what. And as silly as the work order slip sounds, I kind of stole it from my work at Ford, where the trades have to fill out work order slips so that they show what work they've done. And it's just to keep an accountability of making sure that everybody's that they've got enough people, or that they don't have too many. And I basically took that and said, well, that's a great way for us to track what's going on and make sure that the follow-through is there to make it much simpler to perform this solution.
I'm going to jump in and say that because the boys have to fill out their own chore slips, and if we can't read it, they don't get paid. So their handwriting has improved as well.
Yeah,
so there's been so many benefits that we didn't even imagine.
Yeah, that's just wonderful, because my children and the kids in the youth group that I work with, they don't teach it in school anymore. They do so much on the keyboard, That's terrific. Well, we're going to have to leave it there. We're out of time. Jason and Ann Cowan, tell us, what's the best way for our listeners to get your book?
We are going to have a book bash party at Chardonnay's. It's a family party on the October 21st, so next Thursday.
That's in Oxford.
That's in Oxford,
from
right.
6 to 9. Or they can go to our website. It's mixedupbooks.webs.com.
Mixedupbooks.web.com.
Webs.
Webs. Okay, I got it. Very good. I'm just writing this down for our listeners so we can have that for them. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us, and make sure you get in touch with me when your next book comes out. It's great to have local authors, and we really appreciate your taking the time. Jason and Ann Cowan, The Chore Solution is the book. Thanks for being our guest on Off the Bookshelf.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.
Their names are Jason and Ann Cowan, C-O-W-A-N, and the title of the book is The Chore Solution, Making Families Better by Working Together, and their website is mixedupbooks.webs.com, so you can check them out, and you can email them, get in touch with them. They're local authors. We love to support them, and they do have a book signing scheduled. She didn't mention this. Their next event is next Thursday at Chardonnay Family Dining there in Oxford, which is on North Lapeer Road, north of town. It's on your right, south of Meyer, but on the other side of the road. And also they will be at the Bookshelf October 23rd from 11 to 1 p.m. And the 23rd is a Saturday. Yes, it's a Saturday. So they'll be at the Bookshelf here in downtown Lapeer on October 23rd from 11 to 1. You can meet them, talk to them, and buy their book and get it signed. That would be really, really cool. Jason and Ann Cowan, The Chore Solution is the title of the book. Thanks for being our guests on Off the Bookshelf.